Hi brush friends! This is Maricar from 7 Brush Strokes and welcome to our brush pen floral series. In this series, we are going to learn how to paint easy flowers and leaves without the use of any watercolor paints. So if you have a brush pen or a marker, you can definitely create this simple and easy project. In this video, we are going to paint flowers like this. So we have a rose, a 5-petal flower, a flower bud, a black-eyed Susan, and a cherry blossom. So let's get started. In this tutorial, we need to prepare any water-based brush pens or markers. Water-based means that the marker can work and blend with water. I'll be using the Korean Brush Marker Pro throughout the series because these markers are really juicy and great for achieving nice watercolor effect, especially for the brush pen flowers that we will create. We also need watercolor paper. I'm using Fabriano, which is 200 GSM and 25% cotton. A set of round brushes. I have size 8, size 6, and some smaller paintbrush. And of course, a jar of clean water and a tissue paper. The first brush pen flower that we'll create is the rose. I'm using color red and 2 shades of green for the leaves. We are going to start by creating small C strokes that are facing each other, and this will be the center of the rose. And then we'll add another 3 C shapes in a circular direction. So just start with a thin pressure, heavy pressure, and then thin again, just like when you are doing calligraphy. For the outer petal, we'll create bigger C shapes strokes. We'll start with a thin stroke, apply heavy pressure, and then come back thin. Thin, heavy pressure, and then release. It's easier to create this stroke because the brush pen is flexible and you just need to apply heavy pressure to create a thick stroke. And then I'll just go back to these strokes and add more pigment to make sure that there will be enough color for my rose. Using the wet paintbrush, just follow the C curves we did with that brush pen. I'm just softening the edges and creating the center of my rose. For the outer petal, soften the edges of the brush pen stroke while still following the C curves. So roses are basically a series of C strokes that overlap each other. As you can see, I'm just loading my paintbrush with water and I'm getting the pigment from the center of my rose. So it's really important that the center is really juicy and have more pigment than the outer petals. And don't forget to leave some white spaces in between the petals so that it won't look like a blob. Just continue adding bigger C strokes until you're satisfied with the shape of your rose. Just blend them with water, get pigment from the center if you feel that the outer petals are too light. Now let's add leaves here to complete the look of our rose. Using the lighter green that you have, create a nice curve and then repeat this stroke on the other side. We'll blend these colors using a wet paintbrush, and if you don't have other shades of green to blend, that's okay. Just follow the strokes in here to create your leaves for the rose. And that's our first flower, the brush pen rose. Next, we have an open 5-petal flower. We'll start with 5 pieces of V-shaped strokes at the center. Using the wet paintbrush, from the V-shaped stroke, Drag the paint outwards and create a teardrop shape. This will be our petals. These petals don't need to be perfect, so just enjoy creating this flower. After finishing the 5 petals, we'll connect them with a thin stroke and then add more pigment at the center. While waiting for this to dry, let's add some leaves around this flower. I'll just draw a thin line, and then for the leaves, I'm just pressing hard with my brush pen. We're going to have more detailed tutorial on the leaves on the next series, so don't worry. While waiting for this to be fully dried, let's create a version of this as a side flower. I'm using a black to create random dots, which serves as the center of our side flower. And then grabbing my color blue, which will be the main color of my flower, I'll add dots outside the black and also thin upward strokes in this area. Now grab your wet paintbrush and drag the colors from the thin strokes and create petals. We'll do this 3 times. For the petals underneath, we'll add more pigment around here and create horizontal C strokes at the bottom. Then we'll add some leaves. I'm going to create a thin and longer leaves with this flower. Let's try creating a flower bud. Starting with a U shape, form a petal from this point, and then another one on this side. Just add a thin curvy stroke at the top to make it look like a closed bud. While it's still wet, I'm going to introduce a color green at the bottom and continue it as a stem and then add leaves. Next flower, we have the black-eyed Susan. We'll start with just random dots using a black color, and then add 5 pieces of yellow pigments around here. Get your wet paintbrush and start dragging the colors to create the petals, but don't make them too oval. We want to create long petals for this flower. Now, you can touch the black a little bit to make it blend with the color yellow. And if your paintbrush is too wet, just dab it into the tissue paper. Let's add color yellow at the top, and this will be the back part of the flower. Just put some more pigments on your petal if you feel that the color is too light, and then blend them again with water. Let's add stem and leaves. So here I'm just blending the color green and the color yellow so they will look softer. And last but not the least, we have cherry blossoms. Same as how we did with the open 5-petal flower earlier, but this time I want to make them a little smaller. So I'm going to create 3 flowers like this. While waiting for the cherry blossoms to dry, I'll go back to this flower first to add the details at the center. So I'll just add random dots and the thin strokes towards the petal. Now when the cherry blossoms are already dry, add random dots for the center. I'm using color brown. And then touch a little yellow on the area where we have formed the V strokes. After this, we'll just add the stem. And that's it! You can now create different flowers by just using your brush pens or markers as watercolor. You can use these easy flowers when creating cards or designing a bookmark. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you'll try this, don't forget to share it and tag me on Instagram at 7brushstrokes and use the hashtag brushpenscreate so that I can see your lovely creations. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next part of the series where we are going to create leaves.